So there's this guy named Michael Knowles, and he did a segment a little over a week ago on his show titled D-Trans, True Stories of Escape, or Escape, as it's pronounced in most places. And so we're gonna learn what is the true story of Escape. Did they have to like tunnel through like one of the barbed wire fences of the Biden feminization camp? Like, did they have to, I don't know, do like some ethical carjacking in order to escape? Like, what did they have to do? What I want to know, the hard-hitting truth about this story. Let's find out.
My guest, Mary Margaret Olahan, who has a new book out, D-Trans. Mary Margaret, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So,
now, I didn't look up anything about this lady. Let me do that right now. I didn't do my due diligence. That's on me. Mary Olohan, what's your deal? Just so we're not going in completely blind here. Oh, she's a senior reporter for the Daily Signal, which is the Daily Signal. Is that Tucker Carlson's outfit? Just real quick, the Daily Signal founder. Yes, it is Tucker Carlson's outfit. Wowie zowie. Crazy. Oh, what's that? The Daily Signal was a project of the Heritage Foundation. So interesting. Cool stuff. We have National Review. We have oh god, this is truly an odious shit show of people coming through here. I don't actually think that this is related to Tucker Carlson. I'm not seeing his name pop up here, but it is a Heritage Foundation outlet, so Oh wait, the Daily Caller is Tucker Carlson, right? The Daily Caller, right? Right? Yes, the Daily Caller is Tucker Carlson. Yeah, right there. Tucker Carlson, right there, founder. Okay, cool. Which, by the way, in case you're wondering, yeah, she did also write for the Daily Caller and the Daily Wire. So, she's made a lot of the rounds here. And that's pretty interesting. Don't look too much into that, I would assume. So, okay. Now, my assumption from, again, not having watched this, my assumption from the title was actually that she was a detransitioner. But I don't think that's the case. I think she just, like, brought together and cataloged a bunch of those stories to make it seem like a much more widespread problem than it is. So let's see what she has to say.
I've been very excited about this book since you told me about it some time ago. It is Trans Tuesday, especially for Pride Month. We try to focus on trans issues. I feel we just don't talk about them enough in our culture, Tell me.
I mean, we don't. You guys just talk about trans people to, like, say, hey, trans people shouldn't exist. And you just say that, like, every day for, a solid 20 minutes on every single one of your conservative shows.
Tell me a little bit about the book.
Yeah, so this book is it's a reported book about detransitioners, young people who tried to become
Mm.
another gender and then realized that that's ultimately impossible and went back to living as their biological sex. But there's so much that goes on in between there, right? We know that these are
For the record, in case you're coming into this not knowing anything, it is in fact possible to change your sex. That is actually a thing you can do. Don't let them tell you you can't. If you want to do it, you can do it, my friend.
young people who were deeply troubled, who were really struggling with mental health issues, who had to ultimately get their parents to sign off on all these procedures. They started puberty blockers, hormones, underwent surgeries. We're really talking to all these gender
And all of those are safe and effective in the vast, overwhelming majority of cases.
activists online interacting with adults who were pushing them down this route. And after they ultimately transitioned, they went through a period of realizing that they had been betrayed and manipulated. And now a lot of them are speaking out and saying, I went down this path. I had no one to tell me that this was so dangerous and was going to affect me so deeply. So I want to be the one to tell other people what I've experienced. And I felt like it was a really important story to share in a book format because
The worst part about segments like this, and the worst part about people like this, is that they take a very real phenomenon, which is detransitioning trans people, right? Like, that is a real thing. Like, people go through periods of transition and detransition when they're trans people. But the overwhelming, like, percentages of people who detransition, like a crazy amount of people, like 90% plus. I haven't looked at the figures recently, but it is extraordinarily high. We're talking like 1% of people who detransition are detransitioning because it's genuinely the right, like they genuinely realize that they're like, oh well, this was actually a mistake. The other 99% of people who detransition are doing so because of economic reasons, social reasons, professional reasons, etc. Like, it's because they're being like discriminated against and they can't handle it because it feels bad to be discriminated against. And like, that's already talking about just the like 1% of like trans people who detransition.
when they'll go on TV, let's say Chloe Cole goes on for a Fox hit, she's only got about 2 minutes to share what she's been
Yeah, most people who detransition wind up retransitioning later when they feel safer and when they have access to care.
through. And these are some really vulnerable, intimate moments that we share in my book, Detrans. And I wanted to really give
These are some really vulnerable moments that I exploited for profit in my book.
people a good insight into what it's like for these kids that are being pushed down this path and what their background is like and what causes them to do this. And I felt like a book was the best way to do that.
I think it was Chloe Cole who posted a tweet. It was some detransitioner said, it's been 4 years.
Who, by the way, Chloe Cole makes hundreds of thousands of dollars and is paid by right-wing think tanks and right-wing media outlets that money specifically to be an anti-trans advocate. Like, Chloe Cole is a paid propagandist for the anti-trans lobby.
Since my breasts were taken from me, I'm 19.
Yeah.
I thought that really put the whole thing into perspective. When I think about
Oh my gosh.
all the stupid things I did and all the ideological rabbit holes that I went down when I was, forget about 15 or 19, when I was 22, when I was 24, and I think, wow, had there been permanent consequences to those flights of ideological fancy, I I could be toast. I could be done for. And
Right.
so something I really love about your work, Mary Margaret, is you've taken an unusual path for a conservative journalist, because most young conservative journalists decide they're going to debut their work with their grand theory, their own original political economy, and their explanation of everything that's ever taken place in the world, and a bunch of pontificating and a bunch of puffery and preference and opinion. And you've done something very unusual, which is you've gone out and interviewed people and just reported facts. It's so strange in conservative media.
Yeah, on the Heritage Foundation's dime. It's almost like she works for a propaganda outlet paid for by a political think tank that has an ideological axe to grind and is just being paid to pursue that angle. What a novel concept.
Media, you never see that anymore.
Yeah, you never see it anymore. It's like you've been paid to talk about this topic or something.
Yeah, you don't see that a lot anymore. And I think part of the reason is that the internet has made everyone feel like they should have an opinion on things and that anyone can become the next pontificator with the biggest platform. But I think that what I have found with
Yeah, because everyone on the internet is trying to be the next pontificator. What is this language? Did we fall through like a time portal to like, I don't know. I feel like that'd be a phrase that would gain popularity in like the lead up to World War One. Is it 1908?
reporting is that people are really hungry for the truth. People really care about facts and realities, and unfortunately, establishment media doesn't give that to us anymore. So if you look at the way that the New York Times or the Washington Post reports on this issue in particular, they'll try and tell you that the regret rate for transitions is under 1%, which is a lie, and it's also
Oh, do you have evidence to back that up? Like, they have studies that back that up of trans people. Or are you just saying that because you don't like trans people?
kind of a funny lie because that's based off of people who identify as transgender. So less than 1% of people who identify as transgender regret their transitions. Well,
Who do you think the less than 1% are? The less than 1% of trans people who regret their transitions are not trans people. Or who have had botched surgeries and are upset about it.
they identify as transgender, so that's not super surprising. And then when we have all these detransitioners who
I love how her first point right out of the gate is, well, 99% of trans people are really happy with their surgeries. But, it's a lie because they're not polling non-trans people. I have a quick question. How many non-trans people are getting these surgeries and this type of gender affirming care? I'm so curious. And like, are you saying that you can walk into a clinic as like a cisgender person and be like, "Hey, I want you to do bottom surgery on me, but I'm a cisgender person." How do you think that's going to go for you? Because I know trans people who have struggled for years to get like gender affirming surgery. If at any point they walked into the clinic and they were like, "I'm cisgender, but I want this," they would just be, well, you can't. Sorry. Bye.
who want to share their stories, these establishment media groups are just
No, Helbrecht, exactly. I just really, they're the people who didn't regret this surgery are people who transitioned because they're trans. Yeah, but included in that 99% figure that you quoted is also people who detransitioned because they were unhappy with the transition. And they detransitioned largely because either they were trans people who just couldn't keep it up anymore, who couldn't like afford the cost of it, or they were not trans. They realized that they were not trans. Like, the detransition, that you're like, it's in the name. You literally put the name of this video is detrans. They're included in the number.
not that interested in telling them. And so I found whether it's, abortion, marriage, family, gender, COVID, people really care about the actual facts of the matter. And
See, like, you really need to have, like, the brain of a sloth to, like, get duped by this type of content, man. Like, it's self-contradictory.
I think it's been advantageous for myself to just tell people what's going on and then, go on to the next story. And grateful for people like you who are way smarter than I am that can
Stop it.
tell people what we should be taking away from this is. Because that's, there's Ryan Anderson, Abigail Schreier, they'll do the real nitty gritty analysis of
Yeah, those two people who aren't doctors and talk at length about medical care and just say, people who are actually doctors are liars, and there's a gigantic global conspiracy of doctors against cisgender people.
of this issue. And my hope here was to just tell people the stories and show them what's going on.
I love that, because I think now, it's crazy to say, many, many people, maybe most of us, know someone who's gone down this rabbit hole. At the very least, I think pretty much everyone knows someone who's gone down this rabbit hole.
Are they bleeping the word trans? Or is he saying a slur? Sorry.
I think pretty much everyone knows someone who's gone down this rabbit hole.
Why are they bleep? Sorry, can someone, like, what word do you think he's saying here?
Pretty much everyone knows someone who's gone down this rabbit hole.
Is he saying a slur? It sounds like it's a one-syllable word, though.
Pretty much everyone knows someone who's gone down this rabbit hole. It's very often young people who now, I think the starting point is you're a lesbian. If you go to college, you're a man or woman, you're just a lesbian. That's the kind of normal starting point. And the question is, are you going to be a they, them, or a this thing, or what are you going to identify?
Frankly, I don't think anyone who looks like Michael Knowles should be talking about what lesbians are doing.
As non-binary, or it's so prevalent. And these poor parents have no idea what to do. They have no idea how to deal with it. It's an exploding social contagion. You've seen the...
By the way, again, in case nobody knows about this, the term social contagion was coined in Nazi Germany to talk about the scourge of homosexuality. So conservatives in the modern day have just, I guess, revived that and hoped that no one would notice.
Identification with this ideology triple within, I think, a matter of about 5 years. You now see 2 years ago, it was that over 20% of Zoomers identified as LGBT LMNOP. Now today it's 30%. And so, it was.
So, I mean, we're just becoming more out of touch with the kids, right? We're losing, and that's a problem.
Already crazy. It was already 1 in 5 people. And then you saw a 50% increase in just a couple of years. It's exploding everywhere. No one knows what to do with it. And I think your book is very important to say, hey, if your nephew is considering going down this rabbit hole, more likely your niece, maybe, if it's a young person.
If your family member's considering going down this path, be a dick to them. That will surely make them stop.
You say, hey, here's this book. Here's D-Trans. Here's what it's really like. Here are just the real stories. I'm not giving you...
Here's what it's really like. This segment started off with her talking about how 99% of trans people do not regret their gender-affirming care or surgeries. And Michael's like, yeah. Anyway, give your nephew this book to show them the real story, but it's not the real story. You already started by talking about how this is a fringe thing. You already acknowledged that part. This is crazy.
Right-wing propaganda or a tome of political philosophy. Here's what the people who have done this say it's really like. Just read this before you buy your kid the hormones.
Exactly. And I think that, there's a lot of little segues in the book to help people understand how this process works. For example, I'll get into Planned Parenthood offering hormones, how they're profiting, what their officials are saying.
Yeah, how they're profiting off of hormones. one of the cheapest drugs to manufacture on the planet. No one who is selling hormones of any kind is profiting a great deal. Like, do you know who takes exponentially more estrogen than trans women? Anyone want to take a guess? Anyone want to take just like a quick take a stab? What demographic group? Menopausal women. It's true. It's cisgender women. Cisgender women are taking all kinds of estrogen. And guess who takes the most testosterone? Cisgender men. These things are mass-produced already for cisgender people. You're not making profits off of selling them to a, 0.5% of the population? Are you kidding me? Dog. I make less in YouTube ad revenue than what a Planned Parenthood is gonna make selling hormones to trans people. Which, by the way, again, they prescribe the hormone. They're prescribed. Come on now.
About that. I take a little side trip into Dr. Gallagher, who's this plastic surgeon in Miami. I think a lot of us have probably seen some of the videos that she posts on her TikTok and on her Instagram showing her patients before and afters, young people who she'll operate on and try and glamorize these really horrible, graphic-looking surgeries. So
I have news. I have news for this woman, okay? Now this might be a little too inside baseball into the field of medicine, but every surgery looks bad. Every surgery looks graphic. What? I'm sorry. Did you think you were gonna be looking like an Instagram model on the operating table? No, it looks bad. They're cutting you apart to put in a new knee. They break open your rib cage to fiddle around with your heart. What are you talking? It's not pretty. It's medicine.
So I try and give a really good journalistic perspective on all of this and just to show people, here's the whole situation. Here's what each of these young people went through. And then I also end on the story of Abby
Yeah, I want to see images of a kidney transplant. It looks like a trip to the butcher, okay? And not only that, but the point of showing a before and an after is to show the results of the surgery, right? That's what people are curious about when they're looking into these surgical options. They want to know what the results will look like. They also want to know what each step of the process will look like. People look up stuff like that so they don't feel as scared going into the surgery. People do it for every kind of surgery too, by the way.
Martinez, who's the mother of a little girl, Yaley, who ultimately took her own life by throwing herself in front of a train. And I think that's maybe the most emotional reporting that I have ever done. I had to sift through the police report from the officers who found Yaley's body on the train tracks. And it's just one horrific description after another. You know, they found a sneaker here and a here, and just a horrific, such brutal description.
Uh-huh. How is this at all relevant?
Of this poor girl's death. And Abby cried to me on the phone. She told me this is a pain that never goes away, and she wants people to understand what she's been through as a mother, watching her daughter go through this. Her daughter was taken away from her by the state of California, put in a foster care system. They okayed her gender transition, and she began taking testosterone and took her own life. And get this, Michael.
Something tells me that there might have been more to this story than a perfectly well-adjusted kid who had to be separated from their biological mom and put into the foster system. That usually indicates a level of abuse that is taking place. And I don't know if you guys know this about the foster care system. It's also it's not great. It's not great for children to be in there. And yep, abuse or neglect. And I can't help but notice that people inject testosterone all the time. Like, cis men do it as part of, like, getting older because they want to get their, like, groove back. You know, like, that happens all the time, and they don't just throw themselves in front of trains, generally. So, I don't think that this kid took a testosterone one time and then had, like, a reefer madness type situation that ended in their death. I don't think that is what happened to him. Oh, the mom was a horrible person who rejected him and abused him for transitioning. Wow, that's crazy. But hey, as long as that mom can get her sob story out about how she was the real victim in all of this.
When I was writing this book, I reached out to the guy who signed off on her gender transition because I had the documents. I can see the California official who said, okay, she can begin testosterone. And I called him. Weirdly, he agreed to an interview. Usually these people don't agree to interviews because it doesn't make them look so good. He agrees to an interview. And I asked him, so why did you sign off on this girl's transition? And do you regret it all that you did that?
I just want to note that, like, she's dedicating, like, I don't know, a good third of this segment to misgendering a teenager whose life was irrevocably damaged and ultimately destroyed by rejection from people like her. You know, like, she's creating more cases of what happened to that boy by spreading this type of propaganda.
This, considering she took her own life, and he could not remember who she was. Couldn't remember the story, couldn't remember any of it. And when
Yeah, because the person in charge of, like, okaying, like, medical care for people in the foster system, like, looks at, like, a form that shows, like, relevant data, and if the data all lines up, he okays the medical intervention. Like, that's how that works.
I finally got a little bit upset and said, how do you not remember this? Is this something that happens all the time?
Because there are thousands of children in the foster care system?
He literally told me we have many, many, many cases like this.
Yeah, because it's the state of California, I assume. It's one of the largest states in the country. Yeah, they're gonna have a huge foster care system.
So this is just becoming the standard in cases like California. And I included this story, even though it's so sad and, you know, very upsetting at the end of the book, because I wanted people.
Yeah, both these people seem so broken up about it. They care so much about trans people
to understand the alternative. The detransitioners at the beginning of the book, they made it. They are doing advocacy. Thankfully, they are living, you know, happier lives. They're going back to normal.
You know, just as an FYI, in case we have any conservative viewers at this point, pro tip, lefty activists don't get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to parrot talking points from gigantic think tanks. Just as an FYI, that's something that only happens on the conservative side of the spectrum.
And we hope they can retreat into privacy and, you know, be okay. But this is the alternative. If you do not make it and you do not have a support system, and you do take your own life as a child. And so, you know, it's really sad, but I thought it was important to end on that note and to help people understand the realities of what this is, because These are mentally unwell young
Yeah, Michael Knowles is the guy who said he wants a complete like eradication of transgenderism.
people. They need help, they need compassion, they need care, but not this that are so-called experts.
What are they bleeping out?
Mentally unwell young people. They need help, they need compassion, they need care, but not this that
That was like a full sentence. What on earth did she say?
our so-called experts are pushing on them. They deserve better than that.
Right. This is what I think about.
It's the F slur. Is it the F slur? Is she trying to be like the new N-word lady?
So-called experts are not this that are they need care, but not this that are
It does seem like she's dropping the F slur here. I don't know what else she could be saying.
so-called
Oh, fake gender affirming care. Gotcha.
experts are pushing on them. They deserve better than that.
Right. This is what I think about.
Nope. It's fake gender affirming care. That's absolutely it, my rear end. Good catch.
When it comes
Good
to
lip
something
read.
like homeschooling, because I wasn't homeschooled. I was.
They're trying to turn any kind of transgender term into a conservative slur.
I went to public school. My wife went to public school. We met in public school, actually. And so I thought, is it such a big deal? Maybe I'll send my kids to public school, or if we can't find a good one, a good neighborhood, maybe we'll send them to some private school or whatever. But
yeah, the schools are turning them gay and trans.
we're talking about something totally different here, because one, homeschooling has exploded in recent years, especially after COVID. But two, when I was going to school, guidance counselors and teachers.
Oh, Nomi Sunrider. The kid in question was not taken from her because of her transphobia, but because she abused him. Oh, well, it's great that they got the account of an abuser in the book. I'm not shocked at that.
Weren't going behind the backs of parents, giving cross-sex hormones to kids that will lead them statistically.
No public school gives medication of any kind to children. Like, Explosion, thank you very much for subscribing with Prime. I appreciate that. But for those of you who don't know, who haven't ever encountered a school before, or know a teacher, schools are terrified of giving any kind of medication to children. The nurse can't give you an ibuprofen, because it would be a liability if a child had a reaction to it, right? And the idea that the schools are secretly giving hormones to kids, do you have any idea? If that were true, not only would that be national news, it would be, that school would be sued into oblivion, okay? There is no way that would happen. Your lighting seems a bit bright. Well, too bad. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Very likely to kill themselves. That wasn't even a thing you could imagine. And so when I was weighing the pros and cons, I thought, well, I don't know. It's going to be hard to maybe get the kids to be a little more social or something. I said, oh, right. But the teachers in the homeschool won't try to castrate the kids. This is such a shocking phenomenon.
This is such a shocking phenomenon. Teachers trying to castrate kids? Clearly that's happening. And I'm just going to make that claim without backing it up at all.
Right? And it's so dangerous.
Look at how silly that was, right?
Something I said, oh, right. But the teachers in the homeschool won't try to castrate the kids. This is
Michael Knowles is clearly trying to deliver this like it's he's trying to deliver it to his audience as if he's being serious, right? It is so laughably over the top and disingenuous and inaccurate that she laughs. she laughs at him because she thinks he's making a joke about the teachers castrating the kids. And then watch, she realizes that I read the cue wrong.
Such a shocking phenomenon, right? And it's so dangerous, because once you start going down that rabbit hole, especially if you're an impressionable little kid, the results, as you point out, are always bad
Right.
along the way.
Well, that's not actually. You opened the segment by talking about how 99% of trans people, like, even in your formulation here, 99% of trans people like their gender affirming care. So it clearly doesn't wind up every time being bad.
And can be totally disastrous. Whatever parents are thinking of for their own experience as a teenager or in school or being uncomfortable in their bodies, and how we are in a completely brave new world here, and it's very important for them to get the facts. So everyone needs to go out. All of that to say, everyone needs to go out and get
Oh, good! It has a quote from Riley Gaines on the cover.
Hands by Mary Margaret Olahan. Mary Margaret, thank you for coming on the show.
You know a book is good when it has a 5th place finisher in a college level swimming meet, giving it the front page cover quote.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank all of you for being here in the Crème de la Crème. I'm Michael Knowles. This is the Michael Knowles Show. See you tomorrow.
Amazing stuff. Incredible. I'm so glad we checked in on Michael Knowles. That was so much sillier and so much worse than I possibly could have imagined.